Hey, what's up, dum-dums? You don't know shit, so I'm here to tell you about shit.
You can skip ahead if you've already seen this part.
Welcome to Halloween History. This is the 1-minute edition. Here we go. Today's the story of Jack-O-Lantern. Jack-O-Lantern was an Irish folktale about a guy who was so evil that the devil came up from hell all the way to earth just to bring the guy back with him. Jack was like, that's fine, let's go get a drink first. And the devil was like, absolutely. So they start drinking to get drunk. It's time to pay the bill, and the devil's like, I don't have any money. I'm not from here, and you guys made it up. Jack comes up with a scheme. He's like, hey, you're the devil. You're magical and shit. Turn yourself into a coin. I'll pay the bar tab with it, and then afterward, you can drag me to hell. So the devil turns himself into a coin, and then Jack steals the coin. He doesn't pay the bill. He puts it in his pocket and he walks out. He has a crucifix in his pocket. That crucifix keeps the devil trapped in the coin. So the devil's like, hey, let me out. Jack's like, I'll let you out under one condition. I don't want to go to hell. And I know I'm going to hell. So the devil agrees. Jack removes the cross, lets the devil out. Many years later, Jack finally dies because, of course he does, because all the worst people live forever. So then he gets sent to hell. And immediately the devil sees him and he's like, no, get out. Jack's like, absolutely. And as he looks out, he sees the empty void of darkness and nothingness that is between the planes of existence and realizes that he won't be able to see. So he turns to the devil and he says, hey, I need a light. And he scoops up an ember for the bowels of hell and then puts it inside a turnip. They used turnips back then. And then Jack is forced to wander the eternal planes of nothingness. Once in the New World, it became common practice to set a jack-o'-lantern outside your house to ward off evil spirits. Because if evil spirits are wandering around your neighborhood, they're going to see jack-o'-lantern hanging out in front of your house, and they go, don't mess with those people. They hang out with the dude who got kicked out of hell. The moral of the story is be so evil that you can't even get into hell. Okay, now we can finally relax. So now that you've seen the abridged version of the jack-o'-lantern story, we're going to dive a little more into jack-o'-lanterns as a part of Halloween culture. As with all Halloween things, this goes back to the Celts. Halloween, of course, originates from the festival of Samhain, the celebration of the changeover from the light half of the year to the dark half of the year by the Celts. Part of the celebration was to ward off evil spirits while also honoring the ones that you had lost who you cared about. It is also said that the Celts, along with many other cultures, used round fruits as proxies for the disembodied heads of their enemies. Another super interesting, really cool thing is a phenomenon that happens called Ignis Fatuus or something like that. I'll correct it in the post.
It's Ignis Fatuus. Ignis Fatuus.
The natural gases that come off of bogs and swamps from decomposing matter mixing with oxygen in the air create small sparks, flames, and even orbs of light that will travel. And sometimes, to ancient peoples, this would look like a spirit or a fairy, or in some cases, if you were off in the distance, you might think that was someone carrying a lantern or some kind of light. People would go and investigate it, and sometimes this would lead to them falling into a marsh, being injured. They also believe that this could be lost spirits wandering in the night. So there's a lot of lore behind the idea of lights inside of spheres. Also, creating things out of metal was expensive, so unless you were a blacksmith or someone who was wealthy enough to afford some kind of metal lantern, it was pretty common for rural folk or anyone who didn't have a lot of money to go find a piece of round fruit that could hold together, and then you put a light inside of that and you could carry that around at night. So the premise of the idea of someone having something like a pumpkin with a light in it was actually pretty normal, and you would need something to project that light, so you would have to cut holes in it. And then people, of course, don't want to carve a hole, so they started to carve images into it because that's more interesting. And once in the New World, you could make larger lanterns with pumpkins, which leads us into how the jack-o'-lantern became so famous in the first place, which comes from Nathaniel Hawthorne's use of the phrase jack-o'-lantern in his short stories from the 1800s, as well as Irving Washington's Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane is chased by a headless horseman who is carrying none other than a jack-o'-lantern. Another thing to take into account, that when it came to the English or the Irish, it was common to refer to someone you didn't know as Jack. It was a common placeholder for the name of someone you didn't know, and it was understood to be so. And many night watchmen would be holding lanterns and standing guard, and when someone would see them, they'd refer to him as Jack. So a common phrase at the time was Jack of the Lantern. And if you turn that a little bit Irish, it turns into Jack-o'-lantern. Isn't that fun? Once pumpkins were used this way in the New World, combined with what is now considered to be the first American horror story, it became common practice to leave jack-o'-lanterns outside your house to ward off the evil spirits, just like the ancient Celts. And then, of course, with trick-or-treating and Halloween parties, it just became part of our culture, to the point where you really wouldn't even think about it that much now. Anyway, that's the story of jack-o'-lantern. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you didn't, that's fine too. Like and subscribe or don't. Nothing matters. Who gives a shit? Anyway, that's it. Get fucked. Bye.